The race is on for who's going to lead the blue wave.
It is indeed Raden, and Mbali Ntuli reckons she is the person to unite the DA. You say the question, I guess, is why is it divided in the first place?
I think it's divided because for a long time we haven't come together and really decided on who we are, what we want to be and who we want to fight for in South Africa. And we've had a situation where we've had leaders making a lot of those decisions without including the broad membership of the party and taking them with them in the conversations. And so what that's resulted in is this inability for us to find each other. And that's why this policy conference and the next Congress is going to be so important, because delegates will finally have a chance to really pin down who the Democratic Alliance is.
But where were you? I mean, you've been a member for more than 12 years. You are a leader in your own right as a former leader of the youth wing of the party. Where were you when leaders were making unilateral decisions?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know when these leaders were making unilateral decisions, because most of us had found out these decisions when they had already been made. And that's what I'm saying is the problem. So we need to make the DA a party that is transparent, accountable and fair. And that's what I'm saying I'm going to bring to the leadership, because I don't see the current leadership, which has been part of the problems that we are experiencing, being able to get themselves out of that. I think they're too embedded in the system, and we just need a new way to doing politics and a new approach to how we want to build the party again. And I'm confident that majority of the members feel the way that I do, and will really come around a message that unifies us, but also takes into account people's actual feelings and experiences from the ground.
You don't think that the DA's problems probably have less to do with who has been leading it, really, but more to do with the fact that the party never really had a solid foundation in the first place?
I think that parties go through periods where they need to constantly reevaluate and reassess who they are, and I think we've just left it too long in the current situation that we have in South Africa, the economic crisis, the political crisis, to just come together and coalesce around what we want to do. I don't think it's necessarily the problem of one leader per se, but I think it's been a collective that have been trying to grapple with these issues and when they come up. And so we seem like we're constantly in damage control, when actually we just need to come together, decide, and then move forward. So I don't think these problems are insurmountable. I think that as a leader who has had the experience of leading at every level in this party and understands it in and out, and really feels that the people that we have are good people who are trying to do their best for South Africa, I can show that, and I can take them with me and have them be people that are a team that can show South Africans what the DA could be capable of and get people to be excited about us again.
But what for you are the main issues that that are going to see the DA either succeeding in becoming the next government or failing dismally, as many people think is actually the case at the moment?
I think if we don't tie down the confusion that we have around some policy issues, we're going to continue to confuse people externally about where we stand. And nobody wants to follow a party or leadership that is unsure of where they are. I think that we immediately need to have some real goals and policies around the economic situation in our country. And to do that, you also need leadership that is empathetic and kind and understands the different lived realities of everyone in this country. And if you don't have leaders that can speak to those realities, I don't think that South Africa is going to be able to buy them. And this is another reason, because I really feel as a young South African who may not have lived during apartheid but has family that still is experienced the effects of apartheid, but who also has been lucky enough to live in a place of more opportunity, I can speak to those realities and I can authentically show South Africans that the DA could care and have fair policies that will address some of the issues that we see in our country.
Speak to the issue of land, which is going to be a very big issue. I mean, this year on the back of the constitutional proposals that are currently on the table. You don't believe in expropriation without compensation, for example. I mean, and yet you talk about a party that needs to be fair and that needs to be kind. Now, the real lived experience of many South Africans is that of deprivation. Now, why would you, as a matter of principle, even rule out the possibility of expropriation without compensation if, as a last resort, that's what would be needed?
Because the current government and state has shown that they are incapable of implementing anything. And all that this particular bill would do was cause major instability in our country. So I don't believe that they could do this. And I don't believe that to dispossess people, including people like yourself, Vuyo, who probably has a home, and myself and other people in South Africa who've worked incredibly hard to just have some piece of land that they can call home, is the right way to go about it. What we need to do rather is find a policy in a way that we can implement now that will seek to get people who don't have land, that don't have the dignity of having a home, into that space. And you can do that in many ways without having to dispossess people that already have it. And because of the past, I think we need to just grapple a lot more with the minutiae of what this bill is talking about and land in general, because land in KZN is very different to land in the Western Cape. The things that we have to grapple with the Nkonyama Trust and rural homesteads is very different to people in District 6 that are still fighting. And so I don't think this one blanket, one-size-fits-all bill is going to actually speak to those particular issues. We need to look at it in the different circumstances and then come up with policies that can be effected as soon as possible, because this is also going to take long, and I don't think that, like me, many people have the patience to wait for this kind of thing.
Well, the ANC seems to think that land and traditional authorities shouldn't even be tampered with. That's not where we should go right now. The country has other priorities. You obviously disagree.
I think the less said about what the ANC thinks and its own confusion, the better. But as I say, as somebody who has land in rural Nkonyama Trust land, I can't do anything with it. And there are many people like me. And I understand that there are so many complexities, because there's also a fear that if we become, or if the land becomes something that is taxable and people have to pay rates on, they're going to be kicked off it because they can't afford it. And so they're going to leave their homesteads where they've buried their loved ones. And so, as I say, it's very complex. And I think that the ANC is scared because they don't want to upset the traditional leadership. But I think what should be happening is that they should be courageous enough to actually go to them and deal with them. I've worked in rural places, I've worked with Izinduna, and I really think that there are people who want the best for their people, and the ANC boxes them into being this tribal authority that is not going to have this conversation. But that's because they just want to use them for votes.
Now, over the past couple of years, South Africans have had a lot of very real experience with the DA in municipalities, for example, where the DA led coalitions, but which have since, failed spectacularly, and the centre couldn't hold in any of these municipalities. What do you think went wrong?
Look, I wasn't part of the decisions around coalitions, and I'm quite removed from the situation, but from my understanding is that we didn't go into bed with people that we really secured what we believed the coalitions were about. And so in some places, I think it was a coalition of convenience rather than about the outcome of achieving something. And when we wanted to frustrate each other around different outcomes that other parties had, it broke apart. I also think that maybe there could have been a lot more of us coming to the table to negotiate with other parties. But as I say, I really was far removed from the intricacies of it because it was being dealt with by the top leadership.
But say you are, the DA's leader in the next couple of months. The question, of course, is, bless you, is how you would do it.
So I will definitely try to make sure that the DA is at the core of the majority of whatever coalitions we have to take. I'll also try to make sure that we are very clear about what it is that we want to have coming out of these coalitions. Is it that we want to have budgets that focus in certain places? Is it that we want to deal with creating more of an economy in that base of the city? What is it that we're trying to do? I think if you can really put that down, and then also treat your coalition partners with respect. Unlike the people who we may disagree with and have different views on, are people that believe that they're fighting for South Africans too. I think that we would have a coalition that would really work. But I don't see a way that we're going to realign politics in this country or have alternative governments if we're not willing to reach across the aisle and talk to one another.
We have run out of time, but I can't resist asking you this, because from many observers' point of view, it's some of the instances that led to the DA not performing as well as it could have in the last general election. The issue of how you handled the Patricia de Lille case, the issue of how you handled the Helen Zille tweets and what followed thereafter. How would you have handled it if you were a DA leader when those things happened?
Again, I think if we go back to fairness, the fairness of internal disciplinary processes and the fairness of the procedures that we take when we do these things, we really could have saved ourselves a lot of the embarrassment that came with the airing of dirty laundry. Had it been in the Patricia case, I really think that we should have approached it as a matter where we dealt with it internally, we had the disciplinary processes, rather than when we actually went out publicly and started lambasting her. I don't think it's ever a good look to attack your own members before the procedures are finished. And I think that was her big gripe, and that she felt that she couldn't get a fair hearing because there had already been pronouncements by leaders on a process that wasn't finished. I think that was incredibly unfair. As for the Helen's tweets, I think that what really needs to be something that's conveyed to the party is that anybody who is going to say anything that could cost us votes and seems to be something that is insensitive to the lived realities of people, whether or not it may academically have some merit, is not something that's taking us forward. And as a political party, our purpose is to win votes and to get South Africans to believe that we care for them. So anyone who's going to do things counter to that, I think we can all agree needs to be dealt with.
Okay, thank you very much, and best of luck. Mbali Ntuli, who hopes to be the next DA leader.